Let's get all close and comfy. Yes.
Hey guys, it's Hayden, and this is my dear friend, Colton.
Dear friend. Stop.
I thought it'd be really great to bring Colton on to my channel because Colton identifies as genderqueer, gender fluid, non-binary, and...
all of the things.
Yes, all of the things. Not many people know about these diverse elements of gender, so I thought it'd be really great to bring Colton on to my YouTube channel to talk about that.
So I will define the terms that I identify with. As Hayden mentioned, I identify as genderqueer, gender fluid, and non-binary. There's probably like 40 other labels in there, but whatever. We'll keep it simple because 3 identities is simple enough. Genderqueer, similar to when talking about sexual orientation, how queer is just not straight, I guess. Like, genderqueer is just in general like not like cisgender, but also not like binarily is binarily a word? I don't know. Binarily speaking of like a trans man or a trans woman who are still on like either end of the gender binary, even if they've crossed the binary in a complete circle, or half a circle, but you know what I mean. And so yeah, so genderqueer is just like, I guess it's a queer gender. And so gender fluid, which I also identify with, and that was the first term that I used to identify myself when I first started coming out and exploring my gender. Gender fluid, basically, as it suggests, is that your gender is fluid. I one day could identify with one gender or an amount of like a gender, if that makes sense. And that could shift the next day, it could shift like a month from now, it could shift like the next hour. It just shifts, and it's fluid, and it changes based on circumstances as well as just my experiences. And so then non-binary is, once again, it's like these titles are self-explanatory or something, it's just not on the binary. So like males here, females here, and then I'm like somewhere in the middle, all over in this mess. Gender for me, like with all of those, gender is just like a big like blah 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 thing.
Yeah. So when you talk about binary, I don't think many people know what binary means. So yeah, there are more than just 2 genders. Correct?
Yeah, a lot of people think it's just the 2 like options, and then really there's like the option on either end, but then there's a bunch of crap in the middle. Like
these are kind of questions that, you know, we gathered from the internet. They're common questions of what people are wondering about genderqueer people. And then I got some questions from some friends, and they're curious, wanting to know more.
And lovely viewers like you.
Yes. And it's really great. So we really encourage people to ask questions because that's how education and knowledge is gained. So yeah, now I'll start with the questions.
The questions.
Are you a boy or are you a girl?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically just don't enforce that binary. People could be a boy or a girl, but they could be not. Or both. Or...
For other people that identify as genderqueer, is it really diverse? Like, could other people be identifying as genderqueer as something completely different from what you identify as?
Yeah, so basically, definitions are a fun time. I just think of it as like any sort of like dictionary circumstance, I guess. Like Merriam-Webster could be like, hey, this is my definition, Merriam-Webster's definition, and then like, I forgot other dictionaries right now. Oxford could be like, this is my definition of that word though, and you're just like, okay, cool, good, go for you. You do you. And so with self-definitions, I guess, like I have my definition of what genderqueer means to me, and I guess there's the general like definition of what genderqueer probably means, like in general. But what that specifically means to some people is different, and that's okay. For some people, genderqueer is I identify as somewhere in the middle of genders. For some people, genderqueer could be I don't identify with the gender spectrum. For some people, if you're like me, genderqueer could mean my gender is like blah, 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 blah.
We should just start talking like people like that.
Just like
blah, blah, blah.
Just like The Sims.
Yeah.
The definitions are fun, but the most important thing is that definitions are yours.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's
yeah,
brilliant.
I try.
Is your identity made up?
I get asked that question a lot. So many people are still even just getting used to the concept of trans anyways. Like, I know so many people where before, like, Laverne Cox came into the scene, or even Caitlyn Jenner, they were like, what? That's a thing? What? And so getting into that even deeper level of, like, being transgender but also not identifying as a gender that you've heard of, like, people challenge it and they're really confused and they're not really sure. And I mean, technically gender is a social construct, so yes, but also like, no. like it's made up in the sense of like, yes, this is a term that I've decided best fits what I'm experiencing right now, but it's not made up in the sense of like, oh, I just want to be special.
Gender is a really intense and diverse, and there's multiple different genders, and with more visibility being brought out in society, more people are feeling comfortable and safe being who they are as a person, just living their day-to-day life. On my channel, I talk a lot about gender dysphoria. It is a huge thing in my life. I experience it every day, and a lot of the trans community and people who are watching my channel, they experience that too. So it's really great to talk about it and to let people know that they're not alone. But as a gender queer individual, do you personally experience gender dysphoria?
Gender dysphoria and I have a really weird relationship. My gender dysphoria, it doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, it's like, whoa, like,
yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, and it's over the stupidest things too, oh my goodness. Like, I had this one day, I think I was just going to work or something, and I, was just having a super awful makeup day, like just the worst. Makeup currently is what I use to express my androgyny because I don't really have any like feminine presenting clothes, minus my drag, but I feel like that's not casual day wear because I'm not about to wear sequin leopard print out to class.
I mean, you could.
I mean, I could, but I also don't want to go out like that. So I'm just like, ooh. When I have days where it's like, not happening, I just kind of like freak out a little bit, and I'm just like, ooh, like people are just gonna like call me sir all day, and I'm just like, ooh, and I'll just like have a panic attack, and it's just really gross, and it like hits like a freight train.
So with dealing with your dysphoria, when you do have days of dysphoria, how do you go about, like, do you get offended when somebody calls you he or she, and how does that play in with your dysphoria?
Okay. As someone who has they, them, theirs pronouns, I understand like they, them pronouns are like super hard for people. And it's just a new concept because it was a new concept for me too. Crazy. It's like we don't have good gender education in America.
Weird.
Weird. Yeah, weird is right.
Yeah.
I don't get offended, but I do. It just depends on the circumstance. Like, it's really funny because one of the things that I always say is like, if you really know me and I'm like really a big part of your life, like you probably know by now that my pronouns are they, them, theirs. So when people use he pronouns, because a lot of people imagine me identifying as a cisgender male, which is incorrect as we've established. Like with my friends, like I have some of my closest friends who still like constantly use he pronouns, but I know it's just because it's habit. And they're like have no like malicious intent, but I think in part it's because I know that they support my identity and they validate me, and if I called them out on it, they'd probably work on it. People that I get offended about is because I don't know how they feel about my identity in and of itself. Like, are they saying he out of habit, or are they saying he out of like ignorance? With strangers, I don't know, like I get upset about it just because I'm like, ugh, like, god damn it. But then on the other end, like, it's also just like, it's strangers, so I don't care as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I just want to say, like, you know, on the topic of this, if you do come across someone who is genderqueer and goes by they, them, theirs, and, you know, you slip up on something, don't, like, beat yourself up about it, but just correct yourself in that moment real quick and just be like, I'm really sorry. And, I mean, I still get misgendered. I don't know how, but I do, you know?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's just because people know me previously, and, you know, when somebody misgenders you, it's not a good feeling ever, but, you know, when it happens, you're thinking, like, especially when it's a friend, you're thinking, like, okay, you probably didn't mean it, and stuff like that. But it's nice to acknowledge it just real briefly, quick, and just move on, you know, and not making a big scene about it.
Yeah, because I have some... Yeah.
That can trigger more things that we just don't want.
Yeah, I have some people that harp on it, and I'm just like,
ooh, I'm so sorry.
Like, stop, please
so
stop
sorry.
me.
I'm so sorry.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So since we're talking a lot about they, them, their pronouns, tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so they pronouns are a fun time. I love them. That's why I use them. I understand how they pronouns are hard for people, but I also don't at the same time, because I just think of, like, say you're, like, talking about your friend, but you want to keep anonymity about them, and so people usually use they pronouns because they don't want the gender to, like, give away who they're talking about.
That's super valid.
Yeah, and so I always, like, bring that up when people are like, oh, but surely you understand they pronouns are super hard. And so I just always bring that up. I'm like, but what do you do when you don't know someone's gender, or you are trying to, like, hide the gender of the person you're talking about in that context? And that's why I always get really irritated when people say that a singular they is grammatically incorrect. I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Also, Oxford English Dictionary disproved that it's grammatically incorrect. So people that use that excuse are just a load of phooey. And I just don't have time for that negativity in my life.
There are a lot of other gender-neutral pronouns that people use, and again, you know, if you know someone and you're wanting to know what their pronouns are and not wanting to offend them, just ask them a simple question. People
have, like, started asking it just out of, like, consideration, I think, which makes me really happy.
Yeah.
Because, like, I get kind of annoyed when people, like, get, like, asked their pronouns and they think it's, like, people assuming that they're, like, androgynous or whatever, or don't know what they are. Like, no, it's just being considerate, because you may look one way, but your pronouns may be a completely different thing.
Totally.
So I just want to make sure that I have them right. Also, me just saying your pronouns anyways without asking you is automatically an assumption, whether it's correct or not.
Yeah. When I first met Colton, we were both part of this small group. No, we would go around a circle and we'd ask what your pronouns were, and a rose and a thorn of the week. You know, the rose was something that was, like, really positive, and the thorn was something that was, like, kind of shitty and it sucked. You know? But it was, like, super great. But I remember going to that, and it was before I was out as trans.
Yeah.
And I was, like, so thrown back. I'm like, why the fuck are these people asking what my pronouns are? You know, but at the same time, that was them being super considerate and wanting to be inclusive to all people.
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember, when you first came, did you prefer they, or did you...
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was gender neutral, and that's what I wanted, because I cringed when someone called me she, and even though, like, deep down I really, especially at that point in time, I really wanted to be called he.
Yeah,
so.
I love pronouns. They're wonderful. Such a broy high five, I love it.
Have I turned that much to a bro?
I just think all high fives are broy, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. How about them Packers?
Yeah.
Colton's going to talk about professionalism in the workplace.
Yeah, because that's a real fun experience for genderqueer people. I read this article, like, a week ago, and it was by one of my favorite genderqueer people. Do you know Jacob Tobia? Look up Jacob Tobia. They're wonderful. I love Jacob. And they do a lot of like genderqueer journalism and like activism and stuff like that. And so I follow them because representation is important, and it's really great to see people that I understand and people that understand me. They were saying how the whole like concept of professionalism, like quote unquote, is like super imperialistic, and it like enforces the gender binary, and it also enforces like white supremacy and stuff like that. It's just a really great article. And this one will put a link in the description because that's a YouTube thing that people do.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, good. I'll send it to you.
That's great.
But yeah, and it just was talking about how hard it is when people have these expectations of what genders look what way and blah 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 and all that, and how it's really rigid, and a lot of concepts of professionalism are ingrained with those gender expectations. And so lipstick to some degree for a person who appears to be a woman would be completely fine as long as it was like quote unquote tasteful. But what is tasteful in a professional setting? But for me, because I appear to be a man, even though that's not correct, as we've established, to wear lipstick in a professional setting is considered completely unprofessional because it's so like out in left field or whatever, when I'm just like, I'm just being Coltan. But I've also like established this idea of professional as you look nice and you look like ready to work or whatever, and it's not like all this like strict, rigid like expectations of who does what and where and how and why and with who or whatever. Yeah.
It's just like a whole new dynamic thinking about, you know. And there, realistically, in the workplace in Wisconsin, there's really no
Good old Wisconsin.
legal fucking rights of being protected when it comes to your workplace.
Yeah, because in Wisconsin you
your
get
home.
fired for being trans.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Hooray!
Thanks, Walker.
I remember when he came to campus a month ago, I saw his bald spot was getting bigger, and I think his horns are coming in.
Are you gonna have the surgery?
God damn it. Yeah, that's actually a question that people ask, like, just because that's an ignorant question that you ask any trans person apparently when you're ignorant. Yeah, people ask like when I'm having the surgery, or the more like common one is, so when are you gonna actually transition? And I'm like, I did.
Yep.
Like, thanks. Yeah, like transitioning is like such a complex thing. Like for some people it's like this huge long checklist, and for me it was just like changing like my gender marker on Facebook and buying some makeup. Like that was all I needed. I'm fine. I'm fine, thanks. Like, and obviously this isn't the same for every non-binary person too. Like some non-binary people do prefer to have surgery or have hormones.
It's kind of an invasive question to ask someone if they are going to go have the surgery. You know, if they want to tell you that they want to have surgery, they will tell you, you know, and don't assume that everybody wants to have surgery or take hormones, and that's just not accurate.
Also, they might not be able to afford it, and you might just be rubbing salt in the wound.
Yeah, totally.
A really common way that I look at, like asking about like the surgery is like, it's assuming that there's a problem, I guess, because you're basically asking like, hey, when are you gonna like correct this thing? And like for some trans people, because I know some trans people, they think of the things that they're correcting as like, hell yeah, this is a problem. Like, I want this shit off. Like, be gone, Satan. But like, it's still that you're making that assumption that there is something wrong. Like, even if, like, once again, with assuming someone's pronouns, like, you may get them correct, yes, but you're still assuming. And it's like the same thing as if I had a friend who was a cis woman and I go up to her and ask like, oh hey, like when are you getting those implants? Like she may really want implants, but that's also me assuming, number one, that she wants them in the first place, and or that there's something wrong with her breasts currently. Hey Hayden, when are you getting that butt job?
Tomorrow.
Okay, good. I was hoping you'd be getting it soon. I wanted you to bring cake to my birthday.
You got a bootylicious booty.
Fair.
But it's only for Bria.
That's fair.
A final question.
Okay.
At least I think. What bathroom do you use?
Oh, bathrooms. Bathrooms are a fun time.
Those are an awful time.
Yeah, obviously when I said fun, that was sarcasm. As weird as it sounds, it depends on what I'm doing in there. If I am going to the bathroom for bathroom functions, I'll usually go to a men's restroom just because habit, and yeah. Also to the building that I work in and the buildings that I'm most commonly in, like the class buildings that I'm in the most, don't have gender neutral bathrooms, so I probably would take that opportunity if it was there, but it's not. When I am going to like go apply makeup or something, or like touch up, that gets a little bit more hairy, no pun intended. And so that if there is a gender neutral restroom available, I will go use the gender neutral restroom when I'm applying makeup, just because I've had some experiences in men's restroom where I've been applying makeup and it just wasn't cute.
I believe it.
Yeah. Or if there's no gender neutral restrooms, I will go use the men's restroom to go put on makeup, but I'll usually like make sure it's like completely empty and I'm like going in to like go do makeup and like I notice that someone's in there. I'll just like sidestep and like move to a stall and just like pretend that I'm like going to the bathroom until they leave. Just cause people are rude in bathrooms.
People are really rude.
Yeah, gender policing is really gross. Like, it's 2016, can we stop? Yeah, and like I've noticed with people, cause like regardless of whether or not I'm putting on makeup or touching it up, like this is usually how I present myself. And so like me wearing makeup in the bathroom like isn't as big of a deal, but it's putting it on, I guess, that people freak out about. Which is weird, because it's like, bitch, how do you think I got it on in the first place? What? And so people will, like, just give me really, like, dirty looks, or, like, call me a faggot. I might have gotten shoved once, and then I think someone, like, physically, or, like, threatened to, like, physically attack me, but I just, like, left and, like, gave them the middle finger or whatever. I am very, like, hesitant about where I, like, use the bathroom, or, like, yeah, and if I do use the restroom, like that's a very like anxiety like ridden experience, as I'm sure like my stories can elaborate on.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, that makes me so mad.
Yeah.
Like, so I guess on the lines of safety, what do you give advice towards people who are genderqueer and their safety?
You have to think two ways about it. On one end, as far as like people being rude and people being assholes, like you're beautiful, like you do you, and just walk it off. But on the other end, like don't have that like all the time. Like be aware, and like when you like think you're physically in danger, like please like do something about that, like call someone or whatever, I guess. Like, does that make sense? Like,
that totally makes sense.
Be confident enough to brush it off, but also be smart enough to recognize when it's past that point.
Safety is important.
Yay, safety.
I think we covered all the
Yay!
questions, so that wraps up this video with the lovely Coltan, and I'm so glad that they came on to my channel tonight and was able to record this video. If you have any questions for me or for Coltan, I can put Coltan's Tumblr link in the description box below.
My Tumblr is a great time.
Yeah, it is a great time. And so, you can contact Coltan and ask them questions, and because I know there are people out there who are watching it who are kind of on the fence and not sure what their gender is, and I think it would be really great to explore it even more.
Yeah. And you can probably ask questions for me in the comments too, because I'm obsessed with myself, and so I'll be keeping an eye on the trolls.
Totally.
So
yeah.
I can just, keep an eye on all the comments,
Yeah.
and if you have any questions, I can answer them.
To trolls, if you got it this far in the video, thanks for the view.
Yeah.
You done good. You done good.
You just fed my ego, so it's okay. But yeah, so I just want to thank you, Hayden, for having me on. This was super fun. If you really enjoyed this video, which I hope you did because I'm fabulous, right? Don't be afraid to give this video a thumbs up or even share it on Facebook. Also, subscribe to Hayden's channel because there's more of this stuff and it's super cool. And then you also might get some references that we mentioned like in the past and blah, blah, blah. So yeah.
So I hope you all have a safe and wonderful few weeks ahead. I don't know when I'll do another video, but if you have any suggestions, please let me know and I can definitely do a video based on that. Thanks guys, bye.